have with us three of the most significant CEOs in the gaming industry.
This year would really be productive to embrace this very spirit of G2E in having both entities up together, working together, being collaborative, at least in conversation, talking about some of the big issues of the day.
How do we get millennials to play slot machines that are different, that have social and mobile game software inside, different operating systems? We know through testing that we see huge increases in revenue per slots when we test that concept. And we know by working with some of the gaming manufacturers that there's an exciting prospect here where we can open up a new market, a new segment of population. So instead of saying we're saturated and we're saturated on baby boomers, we can actually say we're under penetrated in markets where we're not attracting people that love social and mobile games. We're not attracting people that love table games even, but they play them at home, right? Because there's nothing exciting in the regional casino to attract them.
On the slot side, roughly 13% or so of our actual customers are millennials, but they only represent about 2.5% of slot win. So a typical millennial literally spends in a year 1/10 of what a baby boomer will spend in the casino. But that number is growing pretty substantially. The last 3 years, it's up about 15%. So over time, that segment's going to get much bigger for us. On the table side, they make up roughly 17.5% of the table customers, but 10% of the table win. And it's interesting that that segment, the millennials, are the only segment that we have that come to our properties that where table games actually generate more revenue for that segment than slot machines. We're looking at making sure we have ubiquitous and great Wi-Fi and cell coverage in our casinos. The millennials have their smartphones and they want to be on them all the time. And one of the things I've challenged our table guys to come up with is, it happens in poker, but generally casinos won't allow you to have your cell phone out when you're playing a table game because they're worried about game protection. And there's a risk there, but I think it's a pretty small risk. And I think if we do a good job training our table folks that we can, we should be able to allow customers to have their cell phones at the table.
There shouldn't be a huge difference between what they can do on their cell phone or on their computer as to what they do in a casino, but the casino environment should make it more appealing for them to come. So it's important that we innovate in all those product lines.
Creating that kind of environment that's social, more social, I think is really important to millennials. At Caesars, we're working really hard right now on a casino of the future. We're actually going to have a live casino that'll be on the Strip. We'll have rotating walls and we can change the venue real time, and that's in progress right now. We're building it inside one of our casinos right now, so it'll be like a casino within a casino. And we'll be experimenting there and looking at millennials and how they react to different venues that we create, not just looking at the games and the game product, but also the interior and making people feel at a slot machine they have their own space versus they got to sit next to someone they may not want to sit next to. So we think there's a big opportunity, as Gavin said, to create a new environment and at the same time new games. We've experimented an awful lot with the concept of changing, for example, slot play, integrating a community environment, leadership boards, all those things that go with social and mobile games. And we're seeing revenue lifts on a typical machine of anywhere from 15 to 20%. This is the time we're at an inflection point where we need to cooperate, get together, and actually partner on innovating and creating platforms, if you will, for growth in the future. It's just a matter of getting through regulation, and the regulators have just opened the door. They've set up a new set of regulations that allow us to interact and do it in a way that's innovative and do it in a social way, and a skill-based way, right? So I think the door is open, and we now have to walk through the door, and I think partnering is the way to do that.
These cathedrals of gambling consumption are really, really expensive, right? I mean, these are the most expensive buildings on Earth now, are integrated resorts.
In my mind, the person who should get credit for the integrated resort trend is Steve Wynn. I mean, opening the Mirage here in Las Vegas in 1989, I mean, in my mind, that was really the first integrated resort with gaming and entertainment and all the other things.
Tourism now is upwards of 10% of the world's economy, and within that 10%, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more lucrative driver of both footprints and dollars than the integrated resort.
If you look around the world at all the integrated resorts, the only market where non-gaming revenue is more than gaming revenue is still the Las Vegas Strip.
We've got I think a good example of where it works in a city in New Orleans, where at Harrah's we're able to integrate the financial district, the warehouse district, along with the French Quarter, all together in one location, which allows foot traffic to cross over and attract people. So that's an example where you're able to take different parts of a city and integrate it into one space and do it in a very positive economic way.
You know, looking 10 years out, I would guess that legal sports betting will be here, and it'll be regulated in each state, just sort of like gaming is today. Each state will have their own regulatory rules and whatnot.
Illegal sports betting is now
Huge
anywhere
business, right?
from a 140 to 160 billion dollar industry, which is unbelievable, right? And yet, it's not regulated, and as a result of it, we obviously don't participate in it.
If our Congress can ever break out of this gridlock mode and start passing some useful legislation, that sports betting is certainly something that makes a lot of sense.
People are doing it. So do it in a way where it actually makes some value and adds some good, and you can protect the integrity of it. That's the whole reason that the casinos are regulated and that we're all regulated. It's the integrity to protect the player. Yet we allow this thing to go on the outside of it and not bring it in. It's crazy.
We identify people that we think have problems, and we send them home, and we do that on a regular basis. And I just think that we get a bad rap oftentimes, and even you think about the government and some of the people thinking about it's criminal activity, it's like addiction, all these negative things. And the reality is, if it is regulated, you end up having things like responsible gaming in each one of the casinos taking hold and helping society deal with the issues that do come up sometimes with gaming.
We innovate within the boundaries, and when you work with the regulators and you share the common goal of the integrity and looking after your ultimate users, you can make it work. And we've seen that work in markets like Australia, where we throw things at politicians.
We have this incredibly robust responsible gaming training that we do of all employees, and how we treat responsible gaming, how we promote it regularly, on our TV screens in every one of our rooms, and everything we do. And I think that's a testament to the fact that the gaming industry is extremely responsible. You look at all of these different things developing, lots of growth. And the question is, how do we get that growth and do it in a way that's positive for society at large?
If you go back 10 years, I think that there was a lot less collaboration, and it was sort of like, okay, here's the product,
Sure.
you buy it.
And I think working together we can keep up with that and make sure that we stay around for a lot longer.